He changed our house deed by accident. I let him celebrate. Then served papers at brunch. The first time I saw my name missing, I honestly thought my eyes were skipping lines the way they do when you're overtired. I was standing at our kitchen island with the mail spread out like a fan, coupon ads, a water bill, something from our HOA, when a thick envelope from the county recorder's office slid out from underneath a grocery circular. My stomach tightened before I even opened it, because no one gets love letters from the county. I tore it open with my thumb, unfolded the stiff copy paper, and there it was, the recorded deed for our house. Same address. Same parcel number. Same legal description that reads like a puzzle. But only one owner listed. Him. My husband. Jordan Hayes. And not me. Not Jordan and Marin, not husband and wife, not joint tenants. Just him, clean and simple, like I'd never existed in the first place. I didn't scream. I didn't throw the paper. I didn't run upstairs and start a war. My body did something weirder. It went hot in my face and cold in my fingers at the same time, like my blood couldn't decide where to go. I sat down hard on the bar stool, the paper trembling slightly between my hands, and I listened to the sound of Jordan upstairs on a work call, laughing, actually laughing. While my name disappeared from a document that decides whether I have a home. I remember looking at the little flourish of his signature at the bottom and thinking, with this strange clarity, that he'd practiced that signature his whole life for moments exactly like this. It was a Sunday afternoon when it happened, but the story didn't start there. It started years earlier, when Jordan and I bought that house, and I believed in the kind of we that makes you sign things without reading every line because you trust the person next to you. We'd been married 6 years. Together 11. No kids yet, but we were talking about it in that careful, nervous way people do when they're trying to feel the ground under them. Jordan worked in real estate development, small projects, big personality, always one deal away from the next level. I'm in accounting. I'm the boring one. I'm the one who keeps receipts. I'm the one who asks, what does that mean, when someone says, it's standard. Jordan used to tease me for it. Marin, you'd audit your own birthday party, he'd say, and then he'd kiss my forehead and call me his little detective. When we bought the house, I insisted we do everything clean, both names on the deed, both names on the mortgage, clear paper trail. Jordan rolled his eyes but agreed. He told friends I was smart with money. I thought that meant he respected me. I didn't realize it also meant he studied me like an obstacle. The first crack showed up when his mom moved closer. Diane Hayes is the kind of woman who calls you sweetheart in a tone that makes your skin prickle. She never outright insulted me. She didn't have to. She would just comment, endlessly, on how men need security and how women can get emotional and do things they regret. When Jordan's projects hit a rough patch one year and he was stressed, Diane started dropping ideas like they were casual. If something happened to you, Jordan, your wife could take half. Isn't that scary? She said it with a laugh, like it was a joke. Jordan would smile thinly and change the subject. I would sit there with my wine and tell myself I was being too sensitive. Then Jordan started using words that weren't his words. He started saying things like asset protection over dinner. He started talking about entities and liability and risk. He started asking me weird questions like, do you know what a quitclaim deed is? In the same tone he used when he asked if I knew where the scissors were. I'd answer, and he'd nod like he was filing the information away. He also started getting slippery about paperwork. Little things at first, refusing to forward me copies, saying, it's handled, acting annoyed when I asked questions. The Jordan I married used to love that I was careful. The Jordan I lived with now acted like my carefulness was an attack. About 8 months before the deed thing, he pitched me an idea over a takeout dinner. We were sitting on the couch, cartons balanced on our knees, the TV on but neither of us watching. I want to refinance, he said, casual. Rates are decent, and I can pull some cash out for the next project. It'll be good for us. I frowned. The rate we have is already low, I said. And cash out refi means more debt. He smiled like I was cute. It's leverage, he said. You're an accountant, you know this. I know how it works, I said. I also know what it costs. He reached for my hand that practiced warmth in his eyes. Trust me, he said. I've got this. I didn't say yes that night. I told him I wanted to review the numbers first. He agreed, but 2 weeks later he came home with a folder and a pen and the energy of someone trying to rush a deal before you can think. It's time sensitive, he said. The lender needs this signed. I sat at the dining table and started reading. Jordan hovered behind me, hand on my shoulder, sighing loudly whenever I paused. That was when I noticed how he'd gotten comfortable with pressure. He wasn't yelling. He wasn't threatening. He was just compressing the air around me until saying no felt like being difficult. I'm not signing anything I haven't read, I said, and he smiled tightly and said, of course, baby. I read the refinance documents. I signed what made sense. I didn't see a deed change in that pile. That's what haunted me later, the idea that the change didn't come in with the documents I saw. It came in sideways, through a back door. When I found the recorded deed in the mail, the first thing I did wasn't call Jordan. It was check my email. Because I'm me. I searched for anything from the title company. Anything from the lender. Anything with words like recorded, transfer, deed, grantor. And there it was, 2 weeks ago, an email I'd missed because it landed in spam. Subject, recording confirmation. Attached, the same deed. My name missing. Jordan's name alone. And an additional line, prepared by Hayes Property Solutions, LLC. I stared at that and felt my throat close. Hayes Property Solutions was an LLC Jordan had set up for a project. I'd asked about it once. He'd told me it was nothing, just paperwork. I took a screenshot. Then another. Then I forwarded the email to myself from a different account. Then I went to the county website and pulled the public record just to confirm I wasn't holding some weird administrative error. Same result. Recorded. Official. Real. My hands were shaking by then, but my mind had gone oddly quiet. Like it had clicked into work mode. When things go wrong at work, you don't cry first. You collect information. You isolate the problem. You lock down access. I called a real estate attorney before I called my husband. The attorney's receptionist asked for a brief description, and I said it out loud for the first time. My husband changed our house deed to remove my name. The words tasted like metal. The attorney got on the phone within an hour. She spoke in a calm voice that made me feel both comforted and sick. Was it a quick claim? She asked. Yes, I said, voice tight. It looks like it. Did you sign it? She asked. I stared at the paper again. The signature line for me had a scrawl that wasn't mine. My name printed under it, but the signature itself looked off. Like someone trying to imitate, not someone signing naturally. No, I said, and I felt my pulse in my throat. I did not sign that. There was a pause. Okay, she said, tone shifting. If that's forged, this isn't just a marriage issue. This is fraud. Fraud. The word hit me like a cold slap. Not a misunderstanding. Not a paperwork accident. Fraud. I asked, quietly, what do I do? She told me, in that lawyer way that's both practical and brutal, document everything, do not confront him until I had a plan, do not tip him off to anything that could make him move assets, and yes. File an affidavit of forgery and a lease pendens if necessary to prevent sale or further transfer. She also told me something that made my stomach drop again. If he's willing to forge a deed, you need to assume he's willing to do other things quietly. When I hung up, I sat there at the kitchen island and listened to Jordan laughing upstairs, and something in me hardened. I didn't confront him that day. I waited until dinner, when he was relaxed and full of himself, and he brought up brunch like it was a cute idea. "We should do brunch with Diane and the Thompsons next weekend," he said, stabbing at a piece of chicken like he was casually planning a picnic. "They want to celebrate." The Thompsons were investors. Not huge, but important for his next deal. Diane adored them because they made Jordan feel impressive. Brunch with them wasn't about pancakes. It was about image. I looked up and smiled. It felt like I was borrowing someone else's face. "Sure," I said. "Where?" Jordan's eyes softened, relieved. "That place downtown," he said. "The one with the patio." "Sounds perfect," I replied, and I watched his shoulders loosen as if he'd just dodged a bullet he didn't know existed. Over the next week, I played my role so well it scared me. I kissed him goodbye. I asked about his day. I laughed at his stories. I even let him talk about his asset protection strategy without reacting. Meanwhile, I met with my attorney twice. I gathered statements. I pulled copies of every recorded document. I requested the notary log tied to the deed, which showed a signature that didn't match mine and a notary stamp from a branch office I'd never been to. I got a handwriting sample from an old document I'd signed in front of Jordan years ago, just to compare. I froze my credit because my attorney told me to. I opened a new bank account in my name only, quietly, because my attorney told me to. I felt like I was living two lives, wife and witness. Jordan, oblivious, started acting lighter. Like he'd won something. He started humming around the house. He started calling me babe in that extra sweet way he used when he wanted things smooth. He even bought flowers one night and said, "We're gonna be so set after this next project." I stared at the flowers and thought, "You're celebrating a theft." The morning of brunch, I put on a dress I knew Jordan liked, soft green, simple, the kind of thing that says stable wife. I did my hair. I wore the pearl studs my grandmother gave me. I looked in the mirror and saw a woman who could pass for someone whose life wasn't on fire. We met Diane and the Thompsons at 11:30. The restaurant was bright and loud, full of clinking glasses and people pretending they weren't hungover. Jordan walked in with his hand on the small of my back like he was proud of me. Diane kissed my cheek and said, "There she is," like she owned the right to greet me. The Thompsons shook Jordan's hand, then mine. "Good to see you, Marin," Mrs. Thompson said warmly. "Jordan's told us so much about you." I wondered what he'd told them. That I was supportive? That I was careful? That I'd sign whatever he put in front of me if he smiled enough? We sat on the patio. Jordan ordered champagne for the table. Diane beamed. "To new beginnings," she said, lifting her glass. Jordan squeezed my knee under the table, and I smiled back, because the performance required it. Halfway through Eggs Benedict, Jordan leaned back and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Honestly, I couldn't do any of this without Marin. She keeps me grounded." Diane's smile tightened just slightly. The Thompsons nodded politely. I dabbed my mouth with my napkin. My hands were steady. "Actually," I said, and my voice came out calm, "I have something for you, Jordan." He looked delighted, like I was about to announce a pregnancy or a surprise vacation. "Oh yeah," he said, grinning. I reached into my purse and pulled out a slim envelope. Not dramatic. Not a thick stack of paper I'd slam down. Just an envelope, neat and controlled. Jordan's grin faltered. He glanced at Diane, then back at me. "What's that?" "A gift," I said softly, and I slid it across the table. His fingers hesitated before touching it. I watched him open it, watched his eyes move across the first page, watched the color drain out of his face so fast it was almost impressive. "What is this?" he whispered, but the whisper came out strangled. "It's a petition," I said, still calm. "And a temporary restraining order related to marital assets. And a notice that I've filed an affidavit regarding the forged deed." The word forged made Mrs. Thompson's head snap up. "Mr. Thompson's eyebrows shot toward his hairline. Diane's glass paused halfway to her mouth. Jordan's mouth opened, closed. His eyes darted around like he was trying to find an exit. "Marin," he hissed, low, "what the hell are you doing?" I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I looked at him the way I look at a spreadsheet that doesn't balance. "I'm correcting an accident," I said, and I let the words sit there because I knew he'd used them before. He blinked, confused. "You told me it was an accident," I continued. "You told me it was paperwork. You told me it was asset protection. So I protected my assets." Diane's face tightened, and she leaned forward, voice sharp. "This is inappropriate," she snapped. "In front of guests." "In front of investors," I corrected, still soft. "Which is exactly where Jordan likes important conversations, isn't it?" Jordan's jaw clenched. "I didn't forge anything," he said quickly, too quickly. "You signed." "I did not," I said, and my voice was steady enough that it didn't invite debate. "I have my signature samples, Jordan. I have the notary log. I have the branch location and timestamp from the stamp. I have the county record. I have the title email you hid in spam. And I have an attorney who's very interested in how you managed to remove my legal ownership of our home without my consent." The Thompsons sat frozen, forks midair. Mrs. Thompson's mouth was slightly open. "Mr. Thompson set his fork down slowly, eyes on Jordan like he'd never seen him before. "Investors don't like surprises. Investors especially don't like fraud." Jordan tried to laugh, but it came out like a cough. "This is insane," he said, voice rising. "You're embarrassing me." I tilted my head slightly. "No," I said. "You embarrassed yourself when you decided my name was optional." For a second, Jordan looked like he might explode. Then his face shifted into that salesman mode, the one he uses when he needs to charm his way out of a corner. He turned to the Thompsons with a tight smile. "This is a misunderstanding," he said, forcing a laugh. "Marital stuff. You know." Mr. Thompson didn't laugh. He just stared at Jordan and said, flat, "Did you forge your wife's signature on a deed?" The question landed like a brick on the table. Jordan's eyes flicked back to me, and I saw something there. Fear, not of me, but of consequences. He swallowed hard. "No," he said, but his voice had lost its confidence. Mrs. Thompson leaned back slightly, as if putting space between herself and the mess. "Jordan," she said carefully, "we need to speak privately." Diane looked like she wanted to tear my face off. "Marin," she hissed, "you are ruining everything." I looked at her and felt a strange calm. "You mean I'm stopping you?" I said. Jordan slammed the envelope down on the table. "We'll talk about this at home," he said through clenched teeth. "No," I said, and I felt my heart thud once, heavy. "We won't. You don't get to change legal documents by accident and then negotiate your way out behind closed doors." I stood up, smoothed my dress, and picked up my purse. My hands were still steady. My stomach was not. It was churning, like my body finally wanted to react now that the hard part was done. Jordan stood too, chair scraping. "Where are you going?" he demanded. "To my mother's," I said. "And before you ask, yes, I changed the locks. And yes, the attorney recommended it." His face went pale. "You can't." "I can," I said. "Because my name is supposed to be on that house, Jordan. And the court agrees." I looked at the Thompsons then, not pleading, not apologizing, just meeting their eyes. "I'm sorry you got dragged into this," I said, "because I meant it. But I'm not sorry I did it here. He likes public wins. He can have a public loss." Then I walked out, my legs shaking only after I hit the sidewalk, only after the restaurant noise faded behind me. I got into my car and sat there gripping the steering wheel, breath coming fast, the delayed adrenaline finally catching up. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt hollow and furious and heartbreakingly clear-headed all at once. Jordan called. I didn't answer. Diane called. I didn't answer. My attorney texted, "Good. Now go somewhere safe." I drove to my mom's with my jaw clenched so hard my teeth hurt. Later, the messages came in waves: rage, begging, bargaining. Jordan promised he'd fix it. He swore it was for our future. He tried to blame Diane. He tried to blame stress. He tried to blame me for overreacting. None of it mattered, because the deed was recorded and my name was gone and the trust was gone too. Here's what I learned, in the bluntest possible way. A person who can erase you on paper has already been erasing you in their head. The deed wasn't the first betrayal. It was just the first one that came with a stamp and a timestamp. If you made it to the end, thanks for watching. And if you've ever had someone smile in your face while quietly trying to rewrite your life, financially, legally, emotionally, share your story in the comments. I read them, and it helps to know you're not alone when the truth finally shows up in ink.